Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to our Daily Penguin. This is a waddle through all the penguins that I've ever owned, all the penguins that I own now, all the penguins that I ever will own. And today's Penguin Classic is a landmark volume. No matter what else you can say about it, you can certainly say that. This is from 2013, and this is the Penguin Classic edition of the autobiography of Morrissey, an obscure musician from the Smiths from the 20th century. It wasn't obscure at the time. It could sell out stadiums at the time, convinced a whole lot of hysterical prepubescent girls that he was the soul of poetry, that he was something more than just a coke-addled pop star. Convinced a whole bunch of people of that. I don't know for sure that he convinced the editorial board at Penguin Classic of that. I'd be willing to bet that he didn't. It's not hard to see through this guy, especially if you put yourself through reading this book, which I did, because it's a Penguin Classic. And because I admit, back in 2013, back in 2014, I did not actually believe this was happening. I did not. The part of the reason why I read it was simply a prolonged exercise in pinching myself to see whether or not this was even real. He worked on his memoirs, and by this I mean, keep in mind that he did not work on his memoirs. I mean that he got someone else to work on his memoirs. He is in entertainment. All entertainers are stupid as lampposts. They cannot write their own autobiographies. I don't know how much we need to stress that. I don't know how much you need to hear that. Doesn't matter whether you like the celebrity or not. They cannot write their own autobiographies. They are incredibly stupid. But when this manuscript, regardless of how many people worked on it, when this manuscript was getting done, he let it be known that he would like it published in Penguin Classics. Penguin Classics, until this point, had a century, or half a century, of history publishing canonical works, usually by dead authors. Canonical great works of literature. Or even canonical works of literature about which there was a robust argument as to their greatness. And then suddenly they didn't do that. Suddenly this was published by Penguin Classics. Suddenly this thing was published by Penguin Classics. Not only is it not a classic, it's terrible. It's windy. It's overwritten. It's extremely entitled. It's whining. It's sloppy. It's self-reverential. It's picky and fragmentary and blotchy in the way that celebrity memoirs always are. There's almost never an example of one that isn't written that way. It's full of name dropping and a who's who of who's that, a whole breviary of old producers that were fired in a peak with a hairbrush thrown at their head. Just a total waste of time. As a reading experience, it's a total waste of time. And it would have been a total waste of time if it had been brought out by Hodder and Stoughton or Random House, whatnot. It would have been a total waste of time, and I would have served it on a slow fire had I been in the reviewing game at the time, and that would have been that. But it came out under the aegis of Penguin Classics, the home of Trollope and Dickens and Austen. And obviously, I'm having trouble even now processing what to say about that, because that is the moon falling out of the sky. That is the boiling pond of water changing. That is unthinkable. And unfortunately, it was not an isolated incident. This is what changed Penguin Classics. From a line that reprints canonical classics, some of which we can add. You can definitely add to the canonical classic line. You can look back and say, this volume by a previously overlooked, let's say, female author in the Victorian era is really good. It deserves a Penguin Classic. Okay, you do that. You get an academic to write the introduction and make the case, and then it's in the Penguin Classic line. You could see that. There's no possibility of making an argument that this is a classic of any kind. Period. So when Penguin Classic did this, they broke their own mold. They broke their own pattern. And I guess a part of me was thinking, well, they could break their own pattern, but it'll heal. But no, I've since come to see that patterns like that don't heal. They just stay broken, or they get more broken. Because in the years since this book came out, the Penguin Classic line has reprinted or printed and continues to print lots of things that are not in any way classics. Not in any way. They do not belong in the Penguin Classic line. And for some reason, the folks at Penguin, the editorial powers that be at Penguin, have decided we won't revive the Penguin Modern Classics line. We won't make a new line, Penguin New Classics, something like that. In the America, anyway. In the U.S., we won't do anything like that. We'll just give it this same livery. We'll make it. It'll look the same as the Bronte sisters. For some reason, they decided not to do that, and they still don't do it. So an author who brought out a book 3 years ago who ranks high enough on the progressive stack, who checks the nicest number of intersectional boxes, can have that book from 3 or 4 years ago reprinted in the Penguin Classic line. When once upon a time, the element of time, the fourth dimension, its durability, its rereadability, its stickiness for the next band of readers after the immediate audience, when that hasn't happened yet. And I might be willing to put up with that for something like the very earliest novels of Ngugi wa Thiong'o, because he is a major figure. He's a major literary figure. It's obvious that he is one. I might be willing to put up with it for that, even though those books are not major and probably don't belong. And it still feels premature because Ngugi wa Thiong'o is still alive. I might be willing to do it there, where there is a question mark. It seems likely to me that in some future literary world, when he is no longer alive, his body of literature would be studied, including his earliest works. Okay. And you can make the same argument with the very earliest works of Virginia Woolf or James Joyce or whatnot. So there is a bit of fungibility there. You could say, all right, well, time hasn't completely worked on a living author, obviously, but the odds are good. There are no odds here. None whatsoever. The only reason this book is ever going to be known to future readers of any kind is because Morrissey bullied his way into Penguin Classics, not because of the book itself. And unfortunately, this has had progeny. That editorial decision has had progeny. There have been many other Penguin Classics, so-called, in the line that are not good. They are not classics of any kind. They are not worth this label. They aren't worth this imprimatur. And this is what did it. This is what started it. And, I say that knowing full well that some of the books that have since received that treatment, I'm happy received that treatment. It doesn't matter. My happiness shouldn't enter into it. I might like a thing. I joke all the time about putting Meg by Steve Alton in a Penguin Classic dress, but I would be out in the street with a pitchfork if somebody tried to do it. Anyway, that is your Penguin for today. A Penguin Classic that you absolutely should not read. You should not waste your effort on this. It is junk. And it changed Penguin Classics so that now when something goes when Penguin announces their new publications, I literally have no idea what's going to be on them. None whatsoever. When I look at their half year of upcoming books from Penguin, there might be one pro forma reprint of some Henry James, maybe, or a little bit of Emerson or something like that. But I know that when I look at that list of forthcoming Penguin Classics for the next half year, 8 out of 10 of them, 9 out of 10 of them, are going to be books that are only there for political reasons. They're only there for identity politics reasons, for the progressive stack. And that's all. They're only there for that reason. And that's a shame. That's a real shame. That shouldn't be true. The editorial powers that be at Penguin might be able to claw back the old style respectability of their imprimatur if they stopped that, if they stopped doing that. but no, I bet they have no intention of stopping. So that's your Penguin for today, a landmark volume in all the worst possible ways. So we'll wrap this up. We'll see what we encounter next take. I'll see you then. Thank you, BookTube.